Today's guest is a U.S. Coast Guard licensed guide based in Stuart, Florida, where he runs high roller guide service, targeting anything from snook and tarpon to sailfish and permit. He studied marine biology at the University of Maine, which gave him a strong foundation in conservation and fish behavior. Prior to guiding, today's guest spent his early years working in the outdoor industry, creating content and producing feature films for some of the biggest brands in saltwater fishing. It is a unique background in science and media and education that have enabled him to become a leader in conservation of our fisheries and their environments. I've had fortune of working with him most every week at the American Saltwater Guides Association, and personally, as a guy with over 40 years of sales and marketing success and a pretty good track record, he's one of the brightest minds I've ever come across in terms of teaching, connecting, and educating the customer. At ASGA, I think he's our secret sauce. Please welcome Captain Cody Rubner to the Saltwater Edge podcast.
That's
How you doing, man?
Man, far.
What's that?
Undeserved words. Undeserved words.
No, I've looked for the opportunity. I set you up.
I know.
Look at that smile.
Anyone who knows me knows that I hate recognition. So I hate
know that.
all this stuff.
It's like how we dragged Tony to the front at the science symposium.
Yeah, I prefer to be the gremlin in the shadows, but I don't think I could get past the intro here to get on this. But happy to be here. Far too kind, Jenks.
Yeah, man. Well, it's really a pleasure of mine, honestly. So you're down there in Stuart, Florida, with a guide business, and that's kind of where we are. And there's a lot in between. But I'm really curious where I know that you were plenty curious by the time you got to University of Maine on the marine biology. But what got you in that frame of mind? Where did that curiosity get kicked off?
It really, everyone kind of has their cliche, like when I was a kid type story, but I think it's cliche because it holds true for a lot of people. The reality was I grew up in Centerville, on Cape Cod.
Oh,
And
that's right.
I spent all my weekends, waiting for my dad to get off work, and then we would, scramble down to sport, bait and tackle, and as long
Oh,
as
sure.
little old man had with the yellow fishing coat was out front, it meant that they were still open, and we'd go in and get a little box of sea worms or like a 3-pack of storm shads, and we would go striped bass fishing off the jetties. And so that's in the late 90s. It's post moratorium and the comeback for striped bass. So there was a good amount of fish around during my childhood.
And
And
it's also quiet Cape Cod. That was back before it, just
exactly.
got
And we're
paved.
fishing, but when those schoolies show up before the tourists do, and we're fishing, when all those fish come back through the fall after, the tourists are gone too. So really getting the Cape is a special place when people aren't there. That
Right.
is my favorite time to be there. But I grew up fishing. I was definitely an ADD kid. I was one of those Tasmanian devils that my parents are definitely thinking like, why did we have a third kid?
Right.
This one, but fishing was the one thing that slowed me down. My brain was
Hmm.
going way too fast trying to do everything else. I'd play soccer one year. I'd play, hockey for 2 years, basketball, like I bounce around through all these different hobbies. But the one thing I always came back to was fishing. And so that stuck with me the entire time through growing up. My pops got sick and we moved closer to Boston to be there for, all the medical services that are world renowned in Boston. So we
Hmm.
went
Hmm.
to Massachusetts for junior high school age, but I was still the fishing kid. But it was kind of interesting, Jenks, because I left a coastal community and went inland. And we always joke about like fishing wasn't cool back then. Like now it's the thing, right? Like teenagers, they got the GoPro on their chest. And if you're not good at fishing, at least down here in Florida, like you're an outsider. Back then, I got made fun of for being the fish kid.
Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
go fish ponds and catch largemouth and whatever. And I got mocked all through junior high and high school, but that was the thing I love. And one of the things that drew me to marine biology, I was actually, this didn't get me any ladies, Jenks, but I was the captain of the marine biology team in high school. That's a real thing. Yeah, I'll reserve. I'm sure you have an audience of all wide ranges, so I won't make any inappropriate jokes. But
Right. Good call.
yeah, some people are thinking it, right? So I was obsessed. I mean, I literally used to read a marine biology textbook and prepare what was called for the Ocean Bowl that was held at MIT, all
Oh,
related
wow.
to marine science, and
Oh, very cool.
yeah. So I mean, just the oceans have always captivated me. I think I really like when it comes to the oceans and fishing that there's just no finite answer. You can't complete it, right? So
Right.
it's
You're never done.
and I think that's really good for my brain because my brain don't shut off. So I
Right.
need something that's like anytime it's ready to learn, it can, as opposed to finding something that you can never get bored with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I love basketball. That's my other big passion, but I reached a certain point where I was not athletic enough to play basketball, right?
Yeah.
So you reach a certain point with other hobbies where you can, to a certain extent get close to mastering it, or certain whatever books, series, whatever. You can complete other things. When it comes to fishing in the ocean, you can't complete them. And so I think that's been the core, like, of, you say, how the heck did you get here? How did you track that?
Mm.
And the thesis behind all of it.
Curiosity. I'm hearing curiosity, and it's your North Star.
Yep.
I would tell you, it's essentially that you're a brother from another mother, because that was me, as well. And I took advantage also, growing up on Cape Cod, at least for summers. Um, uh, Obviously saltwater, but there was some pretty good trout ponds and trout streams, for in the early going. So I crawled around on my belly for a while for some native brook trout. Pretty great.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder
I,
about those places now with Cape Cod blowing up like it has.
Yeah, I didn't get into that micro water stuff as much, but we did like all the kettle. I mean, most people don't know that,
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty sure it's because of glaciers receding that there's like
correct.
massive kettle ponds. So,
Yeah,
the little Cape
not
Cod
big in surface area, but deep.
is deep. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a half mile across pond, and you look at it and be like, yeah, this probably has some largemouth in it, and it's like 87 feet deep in the middle.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
a healthy trout population that's below a thermocline, it's all the stuff deep down. So,
yeah.
really cool stuff that, like you said, just kind of hidden gems, some of the cooler stuff
Hmm.
under people's noses.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the North Star thing, I think, is it, and I describe for myself in the ADHD. I like the middle linebacker position. It's a metaphor, right? Because one day you stuff the run, the next day you drop back and block a pass, and then the third play you rush the quarterback. And if it wasn't for that variety, I'd get bored. And if I'm bored, I'm literally dying.
Well,
You
if you're
know?
a current Patriots linebacker, you're not doing any of the three, but we're going through. Actually, the defense is decent, but no, I
So,
totally agree.
but always having something to go back to, a North Star. So where did the conservation piece come into that, or is it just, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, you have, you have a such a grounded uh belief in the importance of that. I've noticed it when we first met. That was up in Maine a couple of years, man, eight
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah. I think this, I don't know if I've necessarily got like a core perfect answer to this. I think there's a couple paths that might be, if I'm like if I'm my own therapist here sitting on
Yep.
the other side of the leather couch. But I think if you fall in love with something, I mean, I fell in love with this stuff, right? That I have all
Hmm.
the photos, and I'm 4 years old. I used to go down to Lake Elizabeth, that's right across from Centerville Beach, and it was full of lily pads. And you could catch like 4 pound largemouth on on just a little crawler or whatever. But you do these things, and I have the photos of me holding them up, and they're like a third the size of my body. But those are your formative years, and you fall in love with it.
Hmm.
There's an
Yeah.
emotional connection to all this stuff. None of us stay up until 2 in the morning to fish off of a beach or all the other crazy things, ice fish in -40. You don't do all this, because it's like a work chore. You do it because you love it. And so I
Yeah.
think if you love something, like, Flip and all the other guys say down here, like, to protect something, you have to love it. But then once you love something, why would you not want to protect it? And so I
Right.
think over the years, as I grew up and learned more about this stuff, you start to see where the threats are. So, like, you're not a conservationist at 10 years old in the same way that you are at 30. At 10,
Hmm.
make sure, I caught the fish. I want to see it swim away, right? Like, I think I did
Hmm.
good, that I protected the fish. And then, you learn about how things are managed, and ecosystem and water management and water quality and fisheries policy. And you're like, holy crap, all this other stuff is going on. And if you really love it, you almost feel like it's kind of my, like, damn, I don't want to,
Duty.
but I think I have to do this. You know what I mean?
Duty. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and there's something that's rewarding, right? I mean, it is a labor of love, but it feels good if you can accomplish something that you're like, I think I might have just affected tens of,
Positively.
tens of
Yeah.
thousands of anglers by this decision. Like, if you got to believe in it, you got to double check yourself, and you got to, run the numbers and do it in a morally sound way. But at the same time, like, it's what's better than, as a little kid, you release a fish and you think you handled it good. But what about when you're 30 and you're like, man, I think I just did something that could have be 10,000 kids, first fish. I think
Yeah.
that's how it's
Yeah.
evolved.
Any mentor for you in that young age? And that, like, are you just like they're all at the beach and you're at the pond behind the beach with the lily pads?
He probably won't appreciate I say this. My dad would definitely be my mentor when I was a kid, as far as like
Hmm.
out enabling. He worked 6 days a week. My dad worked the same place for I think 52 or 53 years.
Wow.
Works basically 6 days a week for half of a lifetime. But he'd
Hmm.
get home, and if he could get out early, he would get home about 5:30, and we would scramble over because I believe Sports Port closed at 6. So like that was,
Hmm.
my dad was the one who enabled me to do it. He probably won't
Right.
appreciate that I say over time, especially in a public setting. I think my fishing level ascended his. So when it comes to
Hmm.
the act of catching fish, I think that mentorship dynamic has changed a little bit.
Flipped.
Um,
Sure.
but but he was my inspiration and my supporter. And then you grow up over time. And the one thing you talked about being curious, but like I don't ever want to say that I'm the master of anything. But if I am good at one thing, and I'll toot my own horn, it's being a mentee, finding people that
Hmm.
are way smarter and more experienced than you,
Yeah.
surrounding myself with them, vetting them, trusting them, and saying I'm going to learn as much as
And
possible
then shut up.
from this person. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I had, marine science mentors through high school and college. I've had marketing mentors and brand mentors throughout all my professional work in that sector. And then one of the things that was really nice was my career at Costa, where I ended up falling into the niche, was running the pro program. So all the best guides, captains, tournament anglers, from bass fishing to, freshwater salmon, to all the tournaments in the Keys, to the big boats. Like, I've been around all
Yeah.
these people, like handed the keys to this list of world-class people. And like you said, surround myself with them, appreciate them, and shut up, listen a lot. And so I have some really, like, if you ask specifically about guiding or marine science or conservation, I have individual mentors in kind of all those silos, but
Yeah. Sure.
listen to as many people as possible.
Yeah. Chance to phone a friend when you got a question,
Yeah.
or an issue. Yeah. They're going to have some context for you because they're deep in it too. That's great. Um, the, so, you're the couple of brands you worked with, I know Costa was one of them. I thought Shimano was as well, right?
Yeah, so I worked for Costa for somewhere 3, 4 years, somewhere around there, and then broke off to work for myself. Some stuff changed at Costa, some business stuff, and I saw an opportunity to take the leap of faith. It was also when the world went crazy and we're all locked inside our houses and all
Okay.
madness. And there's two ways you can look at that, which would be like take the safe and easy route and stay, with a stable paycheck and hide in your house. And as I'm sure people can tell, and if you know me well, that is not my vibe. I tend to be a little bit
Yeah.
of a risky go-getter. So I said, F it. This is the chance. Like, we could all literally, at that point, we were thinking like all of us could drop dead tomorrow. We have no clue what's going on. So
Right.
I went for it. Broke off to work for myself and set up a consulting company and worked with a bunch of different brands. Some, near and dear, I'm sure, to your shop and your community. But yeah, I worked with Shimano and Loomis and Power Pro for a while.
Hmm.
That was around the time I got connected with the ASGA. I think I connected with the ASGA in 19 when I went up to one of the commission meetings. It was in New Hampshire, I believe.
Yeah. And that it was you, me, and Joe, and a couple other guys at
Yeah.
lunch. That's where I met you for the first time.
Yeah, and actually we crossed paths. And the reason why we did that was I went down to the vice president at the time at Costa, and I said, "Listen, I think this is really important to our community, and I know our budget's locked and this and that right now, but like I need your blessing. Would you? I'll sleep at Joe's house to save money. I won't expense any food. Can you just cover my flight to get up there? And I
Yeah.
know budget, and he could see that I really believed that was something we needed to be at. He covered my flight, and that was like one of my first kind of dabblings in that world. So,
Yeah.
but started working with ASGA around 1920 as well, and then a bunch of different other brands and everything from brand management and brand guidelines type stuff to social and digital. Did some different photography contract work and bunch of different consulting stuff while I was
Hmm.
also in the process of getting my guide license. Because that was the, like you said, the North Star for me. I have pretty funny videos from like an iPad in my early teens, like pretending to be a guide on bait breath charters on a lake in Maine. And follow me, we can go to the drop off. This is Captain Cody. I mean, I was playing that skit my entire life. So yeah, it was only fitting. I knew I was going to end up there one day. So I used
Hmm.
consulting stuff to try to help build in, and then
So is Stuart, Florida a choice, or did you end up there, or because
so
Costa wasn't there,
no,
Shimano isn't there,
Costa was in
right?
Northeast Florida. Yep. So Costa was in
Yeah.
Daytona. So I lived all around that area. At the time, I had a Hell's Bay skiff, a Hell's Bay Waterman, and I loved that skiff. But one of my mentors in that area was Chris Herrera, who'd been guiding, I don't know how many years, too long. He's old. If he's listening to this, Chris, you're old. Um, uh, I remember sitting at his barbecue spot, Captain's Barbecue, on the water right there at Bing's Landing, and we were kind of having this little like chat through life strategy thing. And he said, "Well, how do you really like to fish?" Because I had run some of my first guide trips for redfish, and I was
Hmm.
enjoying it, and I wanted to be a guide, but I was kind of like, dude, I don't think I want to do this 12 months a year. I like the
Right.
variety. I was close with Mike Holiday out of Stuart. Then I said, Chris, I drive down, fish with Mike once a month. I love it. Every time I go, we're fishing for something different. And that's kind of that's what drives me is that creativity, that the ability for it to be different every time. And Chris said, well, dude, you need to buy a bay boat and get the hell out of here. You know,
Yeah, yeah. It's
that
good
kind of
advice.
stuck with me. He's like, you should
Yeah,
do fish. If you're going to be a guide, you should fish how you want.
yeah.
That's
Good point.
I'm making this decision. So um, found my way to Stuart through a close friendship with Mike Holiday, who's been guiding maybe even longer than Chris has. Mike's extra old. If you listen to this, Mike, you're like a dinosaur.
I'll
But
send it to him. I'll send it to him.
perfect. Give him a timestamp. But yeah, Mike was a close friend. We used to travel around the country together. He was the, saltwater or the inshore community leader at Costa when I was working there. So we spent many nights at bars and random places and setting up trade shows and events. We got crazy stories of being in the emergency room in downtown Los Angeles together and stuff. I mean,
Oof.
when you travel around the country with people, they become your
Yeah.
family. You're around
Oh,
them.
absolutely. I had a similar job, for a while, not outside of the fishing, but yeah,
Yeah.
you just grow close to those guys. So you end up in these random places. What do you want to eat? I don't know. Shit, and you go through that whole, and then you find a place and what do you talk? It's great.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity.
Well, the event doesn't start till tomorrow. We got tonight off, and you're driving down the road. Hey, is that a mini golf spot? Well, shit, you want to go play mini golf? You end up building these
Yeah.
memories with people that, if you
Yeah.
just worked in an office, you might never walk down to
Absolutely. I love the road.
person and
You
be
know,
like, you want to go mini golfing?
the so the idea of guiding in the way that you want makes a lot of sense. I know I've fished with you twice, I think, but definitely speckled trout and snook on one trip. My son was down there, caught a tarpon with you.
Yeah.
And you have a variety, obviously the jacks.
Mhm.
So I want to talk a little bit about your high roller guide service. Based in Stuart. Can you walk us just a little bit, short mini course on the
Yeah.
seasons?
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
think of a
So,
lot of people are going to be interested in that, uh, October to, or, when they leave the Northeast, those snowbirds, or go down there on vacation. I guess we should focus on that, the maybe the fall, winter, spring part.
right. Yeah. So I run a 23-foot bay boat. So usually me plus two anglers is the most comfortable. Me plus three is doable, but you just gotta play the game and work collaboratively there. But the fishery itself is really unique because we have a 12-month fishery. So like you said, there's fishing.
Okay.
Pick your day that you're going to be in town. There's something to go catch.
Yeah.
Want to fish a specific way, well, we just have this evolving season. I mean, if we just go calendar season starting like January, February, you're in your winter, that's going to be like your least diversity. We do have these unique things where you can make some plays for big tarpon. You can go offshore when the weather lays down. But for the bay boat, all of our patterns are coming out of the Northeast at that point. So you're going to be more like,
Hmm.
3.5 at 5 is like your standard out front. So it's just a little bit sloppier. So during the winter, more often than not, I'm going to be in the river. And
Hmm.
that could play out with
Which river? Which
uh,
river?
two rivers coming together. So we have
Yeah.
the St. Lucie River that comes from Lake Okeechobee. If anyone knows the Captains for Clean Water story, that's that river that's
Hmm.
going to the east. and that meets the Indian River, which goes like 45, I think 40, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the east coast of Florida. And
It's
eventually,
north. It's a north-south river, right? And St. Lucy's doing this.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So those two come together. They meet at what we call the crossroads. It goes out the St. Lucie Inlet and into the Atlantic Ocean. So that's what's
Got it.
dynamic about here is you got
Yeah. Ocean.
a freshwater
Yeah.
river, a saltwater, estuary, an inlet, nearshore, ocean habitat, and then the Gulf Stream's like 10 miles offshore here.
Wow.
So you really have everything going on in a very, very close run. Uh,
That's where the sailfish come from.
yep, exactly. Sails, mahi, blackfin tuna.
Yeah. Wow.
I've had blue marlin come up to the boat and a 23
Yeah.
foot, right? So um, you have all this variety, but in the winter, you're going to be fishing lighter tackle, looking for pompano on the flats. We actually have had a really cool, your listeners will love this. The last couple of years, we've just been getting these hordes of big bluefish. I mean, I'm bowgood 1 to 16 pounds. They're all
Mm.
low to mid 30 inches and they're finning in schools like tarpon. And you
Yeah.
can
Wow.
throw top water.
We get that in the spring sometimes. The finning thing. It's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
So they're in gin clear water on a flat in 2, 3 feet of water. So you can
Mm.
you can throw a popper into them and they are just totally horned up. They're not spooky. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool. So but like that popped up and has become a thing more and more the last couple of years. These are reliable. So it's constantly changing. But we've got pompano sight fishing, which I call like practice permit. We got this bluefish thing. You got snook year round. The snook fishery then changes to keep going. You get into the spring. We get these big jack crevalle migration that's just absolutely insane that we're trying to figure out what's going on. We get a tarpon migration in the spring. We have a great permit bite on nearshore and shallow water structure. You get into the summer, we have
So what's an example of the permanent and shallow water structure? Like they're on a reef in, a couple of, they're not a flats permit. They're
no,
yeah.
no, anywhere from I'll see them on stuff as shallow as like 6, 7 feet up to about 30 feet. I mean, they're on wrecks
Yeah.
deep in that too, but a lot of the stuff
Okay.
that I'm talking about that I like to sight fish them when I can. They're schooling
Right.
more often than not. They're swimming around these shallow structures. They'll eat a fly. You can feed
Hmm.
a fly. It's a tough place to land them on the fly because they have so much stuff to break them off. You feed one on the flat in the Keys, it's gonna hightail it off the flat and drop it into
Yeah.
the water. This is more of like all right, I'm going to wrap you through this stuff that
And that's the jack in them.
exactly. They are a
Yeah.
jack. They are a jack and
Yeah.
they act way
So
more.
is the bluefish. So's the, right? So is
Yep.
the jack crevalle.
Yep. But they act more like a jack in our area. So definitely more for Brandon Sears, a close friend of mine and a stud
Yeah.
guy at the Keys. And we were talking about, I was asking him about, how he builds his leader setups for permit. And we were talking about, float and crab flies and all sorts of craziness. And when I said what bite I go down to you, he's like, "What are you talking about? You would never get a bite on that." And I'm like, "Actually, it's too light here, So it's just different. It's just a totally,
Hmm.
totally different fish the way it behaves." But we got permit. We actually do have sneaky bonefish stuff during the winter sometimes, which is cool. We get the massive albies. The Albie Project is documented. We're sharing these fish with New England. We're trying to figure out why they're so much bigger down here. Like breaking 20 pounds on an albie is a very legitimate thing
Yeah. Yeah.
here. So we have that throughout the summer. We have our summer sailfish season where they come in really close. In the summer, all of our pelagics are a lot closer. I mean, you can catch a sail or a nice mahi and stuff like that just within eyesight of the beach. You can be a mile
Wow.
offshore sometimes.
Boy, I hear variety.
Yes. Yes. And then you go through to wrap up my season real quick. I mean, I got the fall mullet run. People have seen videos of that. It's
Yeah.
very captivating. We have a fall tuna season. That's really cool. You can, live
What kind of tuna at that point?
blackfin
Yeah.
anywhere from like, 15 would be like the smaller ones in the fall up to 25, 30 pounds. I mean, they're legit.
Yeah.
You can land them on spin, you can fly fish them. And then we kind of go into that winter cycle of dialing down light tackle. I mean, there's some sneaky stuff in there that are like
Hmm.
well kept secrets, but here it's all about being able to roll with the punches and tell when one chapter's ending and another's beginning. You always want to be on the feet.
Yeah. I when I teach and stuff and talk about the seasons in New England, so a lot of these podcast guys have heard it already. But my a friend mentioned, we have 10 2-week seasons in New England, and
Right.
it's absolutely true. And you can't the techniques of the last season,
Right.
right? Which only 2 weeks ago, one moon.
Right.
And a lot of cases are out, and it's time for a different approach to a different fish or a different bait or different depth. I mean, I had a morning this week where uh, it was strangely, not strangely, but it's a tough wind. They have a slack high and the north wind. You've got no swell in Newport. You got no swell. You got no white water. You got no place to start. It is July, so the water's warm. You know, it's like can't do that. That's probably not going to work. So I went to points and I fished the east side, the south side, and the west side of a couple different points, and then went and found a deep rock, drifted that, and found our fish.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was just like because Newport, you used to just coming around the corner, either the birds are going off because there's so much bait swelling around there, or there's plenty of whitewater to go work, and there was none of any of that. Didn't see a bird all day.
Like you
You know?
said, it's like you could be standing on that same rock 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, an entirely different experience, right?
Yeah,
You need to be able to roll with the punches, and that's why one of the things is my boat is like uh, a gear jockey's like wet dream, but at the same time, an organization freak's worst nightmare because I got so much
hmm
stuff. I mean, you could run a trip where I have eight spin rods and 4 or 6 fly rods in the boat. The fly rods could go from 7 to 12 weights, up to 60-pound bite on the 12s. The 7 could be dropping to like 16 or 20. And then it's the same time the spin rods could be from 4,000s with 10-pound braid all the way up to 10
yeah.
series. You could fish 3 feet of water, 30 and 300 all in a half day here.
Oh
So
wow.
it's
What's the 12 weight for?
all the big mean nasty stuff. So the Jack Raval, the
They'd
tarpon.
hit 12?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. When it comes to jacks and tarpon, most people like to bring their own gear, and I love when people bring their own gear. They get comfortable with it. It's really good for people to get better casting with their own gear because if you
hmm
say, I've got this Hardy 8, this Orbis 9, this whatever, that's your rod you travel with. Well, let's get you better with that rod. It'll make you better
Right.
in different places. But there's two fisheries here that I tell people like you're going to use my gear first, and then once it happens, then we'll go to your gear, and it's the jacks and the tarpon because it's just big, mean, and nasty animals, and
Yeah.
a lot of the products designated for big game. There are some certain brands and certain products that are really tried and tested and true, and so you really need it. I mean, those jacks, it all looks fun and easy until you hook it, and then after about 5-10 minutes, normally a lot of people look back and are like, "What's the trick now? What do I do?" And I'm like, "Pull it in. Like you're the one that hooked it. Like you made this easy for yourself."
Now what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so like I said, I hear variety and I've experienced some of it. And I've seen those mullet on the beach movies. I've never gone to do it. Sounds like a great another reason to come to Stuart, you know. And the night fishing for tarpon that my son got to do.
Yep.
Um, my favorite thing is to watch. So any clear water sight fishing thing, I'm all over it. So
You
um,
haven't really got to see the true variety. One of the tough parts you talked about seasons is like, well, in New England when it gets cold, the best fishing, the worst fishing down here is still better than being stuck in your house dreaming about fishing, right? So it's always
yeah,
worth coming down
yeah,
south.
good point.
But one of the tough parts is like some of the really cool stuff. Like, Jenks, do you want to feed a 45-pound fish a popper on a 12 and fight it on the beach? You're going to have to come in April or May. And that's just when your season's starting. So there is
Right.
tough, like, I
Alignments.
with some people, it's like, well, I like it at home. It's good there too. And it's say everywhere
Yeah,
in the spring, right? Like the
yeah.
spring is the best a
Well,
lot.
I think I need 2 Junes and 2 Octobers,
Sweet.
right?
Sweet. Yeah, exactly. We could trade away
So
in December. No one likes December.
there you go. What are 5 of the best things you picked up from guiding?
Mhm. It's a tough one. I knew you were gonna have like a tough fastball in there somewhere.
I got some queued up over time. Haven't used that one before.
So the 5 best things that I've gotten from guiding. The number one would just be the most rewarding experiences. I've met
hmm
people that I do not deserve to have the amount of respect that they enter the boat with for me. I view
Yep.
myself as this like servant leader, right? Throughout that entire experience, and they look up to me in a way that I probably don't deserve and don't think I deserve. But you build these relationships with these people and they trust you to help accomplish this goal. And when you do,
hmm
like hearing someone say, I've wanted to do that my whole life and now X, I mean, like it's like that first kiss moment. It's like you're never gonna forget. Like we were on the beach, we threw this, we did this, we did this. So excuse me, those memories are definitely like the number one. That's why I did this, right? I
Yeah.
I could make a lot more money sitting at a computer. I could probably be doing it in my boxers on my couch, while the Celtics are on the TV. But that's not how I want to use my life. This is the type
Right.
I want to fill my heart, my treasure chest with. So that would be number one. Um, Number two, just a really good challenge for the way my brain works. We talked about growing up, the stuff
Yeah.
why I stuck with fishing and guiding here, especially in fishery. This fishery is getting a little bit tougher every year. It's a challenge, and I love
Yep.
that process. Try to solve it. Um, you said five things.
Doesn't have to be five.
Yeah,
I get the sense that teaching's a big piece of it for you.
it
You like
is.
sharing your knowledge.
Jenks, I can when I go out fish. If I launch the boat today, okay, I'm gonna go scouting. There is a certain aspect of scouting, like you got to see if X will work, right? So you can proof of concept, so you can use it with
Hmm.
customers. I don't this sounds crazy, but like I don't get that much enjoyment out of fishing.
Hmm.
I would be 10 times happier to watch you catch an 18-inch snook on the fly and we giggle and laugh and high five and release it than going out by myself and catching a 50. Even if I had like a camera and all this stuff, I don't do it for myself. And
Yeah.
when I go out by myself a lot, I do a lot of looking and a lot of
Yeah. Observation.
makes me feel good that the fish get some days where they win too. Right. So like seeing a
Hmm.
fish come down a bar on the right side and being like, I could dot that fish right. Once you feel confident enough, you're like, I could dot that fish right now and he'd be mine. But to watch
Hmm.
it go away and just study what it's doing, I mean, I get more enjoyment out of that.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
teaching is a big part of it and the enabling others. I think it's like, man, I fell in love with it so early and I love these moments so much. Like I got to get as many people to feel this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Share your passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for using the Saltwater Edge tagline.
I think my $5. I think my five
What's
bucks.
that?
I'll send you an
Yeah, that's right.
invoice.
Um, so I was with you last week. We were at ICAST down in Orlando, and
Yep.
you were uncomfortable because you did not like the recognition. But another organization you work very closely with, in addition to the American Saltwater Guides Association, is Captains for Clean Water. And you've told me in the past that, you know, they're the captains for clean water, and ASGA is the captains for the fish. And that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. We're going to talk a little bit more about ASGA for sure, but I want to move off the captains for clean water because I've met those guys a couple times over the years, and from afar really admire the work they do, and think there's real parallels, because ASGA believes there's there's a better business through conservation, and generally abundance, more fish in the water is very good for selling guide trips, rods and reels, manufacturing, and it aligns completely with the desires of the recreational angling community anyway. If they don't think they can go catch a fish, they're gonna play golf or pickleball or something, right? So, um, fish in the water is a good thing for all involved. Um,
Right.
so maybe you could give us a little, for those that aren't familiar. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the hats. You see the hats everywhere. But a little bit about Captains for Clean Water. I know you were just recognized for them for what I believe was like Advocate of the Year or something. I know you've done a lot of testifying, and I don't
I
know
think
all
I
that
think
you
it was
do
the
with them,
worst
but
guide. Worst guide
was
of
that
25.
worst guide of the year?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it was that. You were shifting your weight, standing right beside you. You're shifting your weight. You're looking around. You're like,
Well, they had a
they
hostage
they
thing.
start kicking and screaming, man. They dragged you up there to give you a trophy that you created, right?
The one thing I will say is that they're self-aware. Is that Daniel said on the mic, he's like, I know Cody's going to hate us for this, and he's still put
Yes.
for it. So at least he's self-aware. But yeah, it is funny. I when I worked at Costa, we made that award, whatever that was, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't remember the exact years, but
The we is you.
yeah, it was like they're like we want to recognize, we want to work with captains, we want to recognize someone who's been doing a lot of great work for them, Benny Blanco at the time. So
Sure.
like we want to do this Steward of the Year and then make it every year and pass it
Stuart.
down.
Yeah.
And I got tasked at the time. We're like, we got to come up with some sort of trophy. So I made the concept for this trophy. And then, whatever many years later, now they're putting my name on it, which I think is ridiculous, but we'll move on from that. So that was
It was a fun to watch.
I'm sure it was. I mean, half the crowd is only there just to kind of like half heckle me, right? They knew that
Yeah.
like the more they supported, like Joe and all of our mutual friends are like running around like, "Hey, you don't know that guy, but go say congratulations, to that guy in the blue," just trying to piss me. Mission accomplished by those guys. But no, that was
Yeah.
it was very kind to them. I had to swallow my pride there. I was going to keep quiet, not put anything about it, but at the same time, I realized I would like to show people that like, I didn't know about this fight a decade ago and now I'm really intricately involved in it. So maybe I can
Mhm.
inspire just one person to be like, man, I don't know too much about that now, but I think I wanted to, X make the
I think that that's one of the things these two organizations share, ASGA and Captains for Clean Water, is people just don't know.
Mhm.
So many people don't know. I mean, up in back in Newport, where we got a good striped bass season going in terms of size.
Mhm.
Plenty of fish stories. So if you're not, more intimate with it, you wouldn't realize that. Yeah, it's not. There's not many small fish at all, and this is
Mhm.
odd. And I actually, you know, um, Peter had described it to me as, we used to have American cheese, fish everywhere. Now we got Swiss cheese. And Newport is so special in terms of habitat, cold water close to shore, depth, all of it. We still have good fish, and there's plenty of places that have pretty good uh, habitat that are part of that Swiss cheese. Maybe it's 1 week there, 2 weeks there at Westport, and then they're not at Westport. They're at Cuttyhunk, but they hadn't been at Cuttyhunk. Now they are. You know what I mean? I think Newport is just a pretty special and probably the worst place to take the temperature as a result. Uh, uh, hearing things all the way up and down the coast. I mean, I know you have buddies in Maine and stuff, so. We have some real troubles there, but I don't know that people I still have people that are unaware that approach me that are unaware of the reality of the population thing. So if you could, in the context of Captains for Clean Water, give us a little bit of. I know people know that Okeechobee is certainly super dirty. I know the people the goal is to send this water south through this filtration system that is the Everglades versus pumping it out the two rivers.
Mhm.
Port St. Lucie, or St. Lucie comes near you, and the other one spilled out literally beside my condo in is it Marco? No, we weren't Marco. Wife set it up. Fort Myers, right? That's where that one comes out, right? It literally, I looked out there and I was like, holy shit, that's the thing that I've been
Yeah.
reading about.
Yeah, it's a
And when you
Calusa hat.
see Caloosahatchee, right? And this is like 2 winters ago, we went down to Florida for a week, right? And I was like, God damn, there's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, how can people tolerate this? It's such bullshit. That's
Yeah.
our resource and it's being ruined. I mean,
Yeah, I think
in
I
those
think
places, that like Sanibel and the places around where we were, rely on tourism.
Florida's
So
entire economy, I'm not a Florida boy. We talked about I'm New England born and raised. Florida's entire economy is set up on tourism. Like the
yeah,
the dollars and income compared to, it being a tax-free state in different ways. And then it's all set up so that way, okay, as long as people keep coming in and we have this influx of money from other places and we take those money, then we can build our residents can live this way with these taxes. And that's how the whole system's set up. So if people
yeah,
stop
yeah,
coming, Florida crumbles in on itself. This
yeah. Quick too.
so
House of Cards that way.
yeah, and how you hit it, I think you hit the nail on the head. You said the word like, how do people tolerate this? I think that's how a Captains for Clean Water movement starts. Is some guys just say, "F this, we're done. We're done with this.
Yeah,
It can't get any worse." And to be very transparent and clear, Captains for Clean Water isn't the first group to say, "Let's save the Everglades." There's
right.
there's been a fight going on for decades. They're just one of another group of constituents of Florida who are fed up. And what was cool is they gave a unique voice, an authentic voice from a very different perspective than other groups that are involved. And all these groups play different roles. Like you talked about a team sport,
Sure.
do different things. But I think what people fell in love with captains is authenticity, right? Is like we're not a bunch of politicians. We're not a bunch of PhD students who have never, I'm taking a shot. Sorry, any PhD people, but like, we're not a bunch of PhD people who've been in the lab for the last 15 years and never been outside. We live
Hmm.
this. and we have this authentic experience,
And we're impacted by it
and we're done.
negatively.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we won't exist. Like it's, wolf against wolf backed into a corner. We won't exist if this continues. So we're going to join the fight with this voice. And what I appreciated about ASGA and what I appreciate about Captains, and the reason I fell into, both of these umbrellas with both these hats on, is the voice of being unapologetically courageous, right? Like,
Hmm.
this is what we know. We've made sure that what we're saying is accurate. It's based in science. We've made sure that we're not coming up with anything, absurd, but this is what we know. It's true. And we're not going to back down. We're not afraid of a conversation, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of apathetic conservation, which is like, we did all this science and we learned this and the world is dying and we found out X, and, we put out our paper and now we'll move on to our next paper. And for someone like
Hmm.
me, I'm looking at it like, that, X is turning into Y. What are you're not going to do anything? What do we do? So
Yeah.
people are like seeing these groups who aren't afraid to go into the fray, that whole man in the arena
Hmm.
speech. It's
Yeah.
like,
Roosevelt or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, like we need someone in there. And then when
Right.
someone in the fray, it gives people courage to join, because you look at like politics and modern media now, and we won't get into any of the partisan stuff, but like there's just so much stuff going on, and everything you're being told is always bad. And you look at it, you're like, I'm one vote out of 400 million. Like what can I
Hmm.
do? Millions of dollars spent on all these parties. What could I do? Hold on, these guys just went in this room, caused a ruckus, and the decision was flipped on X.
Hmm.
Like you
Hmm.
feel like, man, this is what I care about, and I can actually
You
do.
know, I'm just realizing the way you're talking about it, we both organizations um, share the same recipe, if you will. Um, because you started with trust and authenticity. I felt from the beginning with the Guide Association, part of what was we were uniquely positioned would be as a trusted advisor. How many times you get in a guide's boat and he says, meet me at 6, you buzz over there, put this on, throw it over there, I'm tight.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's built on trust, you showed up and you had confidence in him and it happened. He gave you an experience or a new reality, right? And then so that's built on trust. So I've always felt like that guide in the back of the boat, is the canary in the coal mine in terms of the fishery and the environment. Okay. And captains is the environment, we're the fishery, if you will, in this, working through this thing. But
Yep.
the common denominators are science, education, and advocacy.
Right. Right.
You
And
know?
if I were to put my brand hat back on, you
Yep.
started to dabble a little bit around like the brand personality right there, the brand
Yep.
ethos is we have supporters of ASGA who aren't even hardcore fishermen, right? But like,
Hmm.
oh, I get it. That's the Saltwater Guides Association. They're great. They do X, Y, and Z. They have my support. Captains of Clean Water has supports from hotels, from I don't know, just random shops, small businesses, everyone that relies on this resource, like you said, to drive
Yeah.
tourism. So they have their support. Oh, I'm a member of Captains of Clean Water. Oh, I fish once a year. You're not a captain, right? But it's the ethos.
Yeah.
Like a fishing guide is gritty, determined, a trusted advisor, all these different attributes that we could come up with. And it's like, I think that's the spirit of who I want representing me in
Hmm.
stuff. And so I do agree that there's a very keen, unintended crossover. It's just kind of how
Yeah.
those groups grew. And, ASDA and Captains is also a few years ahead of ASDA just as far as age and presence.
Yeah. But that idea starting with science,
Right.
and I watched those walk around videos. I know Chris, what's the other guy's name with the
Daniel.
dark beard? Daniel. Yeah. Um, I know those guys when they come on Instagram, I know I'm getting truth, right? And they explain it in, uh, usable terms. I'm sure they took, in the from the Guide Association, I think of, Amendment 7, I think was 170 pages. They wanted public comment. I mean, that's ridiculous. No one can read 170 pages. They have the time. You haven't done me a service. You've screwed me.
James, we love
5%.
this stuff. We don't
What's
have
that?
we love this
Yeah.
stuff. We do it, as work, and we don't have the time, the wherewithal. I mean, asking someone, when the stuff that sticks with me is when we find something, or it's,
Hmm.
our Rain Man Tony's like, this number is supposed to
Yes,
be
exactly right.
3, right? And then we look and we're like, dude, you're right, Tony. This is supposed to be 3, not 4. And we bring it back to the technical committee who like builds these papers and they go, oh, we don't know. Right. So even the people making this stuff, it is too
Yeah.
complex.
I remember one of the guide association wise, one of the things about this recent addendum, if I got my terminologies right, they had literally one intercept. One
Yeah.
intercept is like one interview of one fisherman. And then they
Yeah.
did all these extrapolations off of that. That's such a shoddy way to do math. I'm not a
Yeah.
math guy, and I know that. And then the
Well,
other one is just the uh, just the idea of all that information that's buried in these documents.
yeah.
Somebody, and thankfully in our team it's Tony, can read it and make sense. I mean, one of the most annoying things for me, I was probably 10 or more years into this game, and I don't know, they're talking about waves. And I just lean over to somebody who I knew more than me, and I go, kind of embarrassed here, but what's a wave?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, wave one, January, February. I'm like, are you kidding me? You've just made it, put up a barrier to participating, a barrier to understanding, you know, uh, with these
What
just
you
what,
just said right there, though, that's what I love. My other passion is trying to break down those barriers because
yes,
I wasn't an A+ student at University of Maine. I got decent grades, but I always fell in love with all the other stuff, the community stuff.
yep,
So, I wasn't the top lab student or whatever, and I felt a little bit disconnected with my school of marine biology towards the end because I was running the fishing club. I was traveling the country fishing FLW in the bass tournaments. I was vice president of a fraternity. I was doing all this community stuff, still doing finishing up my degree. And then when it came around to the senior, like you had to, present your senior research, your capstone work. And I'm just trying to get it done so I can graduate. I'm excited to go work in the industry. I've got some job
yeah,
prospects, and I won an award for the best verbal presentation. And here I am thinking like I'm just barely getting by to, get the schoolwork done so I can graduate. And that was an eye-opening thing for me, not as like an accolade thing, but I was
right,
like, it all clicked like, oh, I think I'm good at relaying this to the
yes,
average person. And that's kind of been my role is like, okay, let's break down this 170-page document together because I've got some guides up here in Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maine who want to know the heck's going on. Maybe I can write them 5 paragraphs that gives them the basis. That's
yeah,
the it's that I found myself into. But you talked about we got to break those barriers down.
hmm
You say, look at captains, figure out the last 100 years of water management in Florida and the critical Everglades restoration plan. It's like 50 something projects that span 20 something years. The average recreational angler is going to be, I don't got time for that. Dude, what are you talking? I don't
yeah,
got that. But what if I could break down those barriers? What if there was one homepage that had 5 or 6 paragraphs that just gave you the spark notes so you feel confident in getting started? Those barriers,
yeah.
we got to break those down with anything we care about.
Yeah, I look at ASGA and science, education, and advocacy. Science is, for example, tagging almost 300 albies and knowing that the same albie that was in Nantucket Sound pinged off of Key West, right? And establishing it's a coastwide species. We're still asking ourselves questions like when do they spawn? Why are the ones in New England, 8, 10 pounds, and the ones in North Carolina, Florida, 20? And so we have still unknowns, right? But that science we use to inform the fisheries managers
Right.
and but also the angler. The angler's curious about this, right? And so that brings them in. So that education is really of 2 audiences. And then from there, we also teach that angler to be an advocate. If they got the gas in the tank and the passion in their, you know, what'd you say about Chris and Dan? Enough, whatever it was. Just frustrated. Not
Yeah.
is a word used that was good, but I mean, had enough. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a dog and I'm in this fight, right? Because this doesn't make any sense. This is important to me. I love it. It makes me me, right? So, um, and then, to teach anglers to be advocates, I think is another aspect of education and that breaking it down. And then I think a lot of it is in the presentation. That's why I refer to you as the secret sauce, because obviously it takes that crunching that Tony can do. He, with his deep experience and really like analytical mind
Yeah.
on its own is really formidable stuff. But to package it and um, serve it, whether it's
It's
through video
palatable.
or
You got to
Yeah.
make it palatable.
Yeah.
Someone who is just on the fringe on if they really want to get involved with this does not want to read 3 paragraphs about um, the end count for a certain survey of a seine done over the last 10 years with a percent standard error of X found this index, which also can be calculated and estimated.
In this wave,
Yeah, and
right?
they're
This is
like,
like waves.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, that's just A1. That's not A plus B1 plus B2. That doesn't have discards. And they're going, what are you saying? Like what is
Hmm.
all that's going on? But what if I tell you, spawning over the last 6 years, is the worst
Sucked.
that it's been 50
Yeah.
years. And until we get more new fish, we really need to look at how many fish we're taking off the top. People go, well, that
Right.
makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
then you say it like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Um, so let's change gears.
Sure.
This podcast is brought to you by the Saltwater Edge. Go to saltwateredge.com to check out the latest in surf, fly, light tackle, and jigging gear. We have hundreds of 5-star reviews for our same-day shipping, advocacy for our fisheries, and a passionate crew of anglers. We're ready to answer your questions about tackle and tactics from bonefish to bluefin. Use the code CODY, CODY, to get free shipping on your next order.
Outstanding. Well, I'm gonna
How
hop in.
about that, right?
I'm not picking
And
it up.
thanks to your continued support, I see some boxes rolling towards Stuart. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
I do some
Um,
I do some creative stuff. I'll say it something like this without giving something away. There's a certain rubber mouth fish down by me that's a prize catch that is really, really effective to target with tautog jigs. So you never get
ah,
all your banana jigs are coming south to Stuart, Florida. I'll let people there, but there's always some different ways to integrate one type of fishing into another.
absolutely, absolutely. It's one of my favorite things about traveling. It's just to dip into other tackle shops and stuff like that. You got a great program down there with that couple of 3 or 4 whites tackle.
Might have
Um, I always dip in, go to those places, see something new, buy something most places I go, just because it's you see stuff you don't see everywhere.
I stay
Um,
because I'm broke.
what's that?
See too much stuff I like, and I'm too broke to play in there.
Um, so wrap up questions.
Sure.
Someone's coming to Stuart, Florida, going to fish on vacation. Maybe they grab a guide for a day or two, or if they're just trying to squeeze out a couple hours in the morning. What are 2 lures or 2 flies, assuming they're from the beach, you'd suggest? I bet it's a depends as it relates to time of year, but let's just sort of say that January to April, snowbird piece, just to put some boundaries on it.
Yeah, best. I mean, the best just a go-to fly would be like a white bait fly. So,
Yeah.
a 3 inch, a 4 inch fly, smaller, dialed down, lighter presentation. That's the one thing New England people have to adjust to when they come down here is they fish big and heavy, you know,
Hmm.
and they see the videos. You can get a snook to eat a 10-inch topwater. You can get a snook to eat something that looks like the dock, right? That's during the mullet run when they're keyed in on really big baits, right? And that's what they want. But during the beach in the spring, like they're eating little white baits and they're eating easy stuff, or you might be here, you line up with a minnow run where they're actually eating micro minnows. So the presentation
Hmm.
is a lot smaller than you think for a lot of this stuff. So just like any sort of deceiver or small little pilchard style, white bait style fly would just be like a standard. You'll get everything, I say junk fish, right? But you'll get the little snappers, the ladyfish, and all that stuff to eat that. You can also feed like a 34-inch snook, a 3-inch fly, So
Yeah.
that would be like the fly approach. And spin, like a swim bait, but like a small, subtle swim bait would be good. All the shrimp stuff does work. Our estuaries changed a little bit. We don't have to dive back into that now. There's not as much like shrimp and crabs around due to all the conservation type stuff that we're dealing with right now, but that type stuff still does work. All those like
Hmm.
classic, um,
DOA and that kind of stuff.
DOA was born in this backyard. Mark,
Yeah.
that business is still down, but on in between my house and the boat ramp. But all that stuff like that, the craziest little lure that like I think this is a positive review of the product, but like the DOA Terrorize looks stupid and it is super fishy. I mean, super, super
Mm.
fishy. Literally, just like a little. It looks like a cartoon. A toddler drew a cartoon of a fish, and it is so subtle, so finessed. The smallest little hook, and you can sting 100-pound tarpon on that. They will smoke
Yeah. Wow.
the heck out of it. So, like,
Yeah.
keep it simple, Stu. Keep it simple.
It's
approach, right? Like,
Yeah, I would echo your comment there about we're in Northeast, we're heavy. Our lightest rod that someone might say, well, this is my, Bonito schoolie rod, and it's going to be a half to one and a half.
yeah,
And most of what you use down there is something, what would you say, a quarter to three quarters? What would you, if you're going to put a travel rod in somebody's hand for Florida, what would you?
yeah, I mean again, it depends on that time of the year. I mean, like
Okay.
the best, most general setup that it'd be, it'd probably be like a 5,000, setup.
Okay.
The reality is walking the beach, you go with a 4K 10-pound braid. I prefer to fish from the mentality of it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. So I'd rather fish a little bit lighter. I
Okay.
started holiday many years ago. I'd rather fish a 4K with 10 pound, to 30
Hmm.
leader. And if you hook, the mega one, you're in for it. Maybe the fish wins, right? As
You got
opposed
a fish story.
you're
Yeah.
in a little bit. So you can go a 4,000, 10-pound braid to like a 30-pound leader, 3, 4 feet, 30 pounds, and you'd be in the game.
Hmm.
A lot of the light tackle stuff. But like a 5,000, 4,000 is going to be kind of your do it all type stuff. That's not, obviously, that's withstanding, like you said, that's the winter time, just casually looking for a bite. That's the
Yeah.
same thing that you would set someone up. Like if you're going to go fish from shore, and you just want to catch a schoolie striper, what should you use? I'm
Yeah.
just talking like a general low barrier.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
but then the big jacks roll down the beach and you're gonna want an 8,000 with 30-pound braid, 60-pound leader.
Ooh.
You know,
Yeah. All right.
so
What are two resources you find helpful when you're planning, a guide day?
for myself to
Yeah, to get ready. What do you
uh,
refer to? Do you keep a fishing log, for example, or?
whoa. I was gonna say 7-Eleven because they have gas and ice, but
That's good. That's good. I mean, you'd be the first.
yeah, maybe I can get 7-Eleven sponsorship. But I am. I'll say like a. I wonder if anyone's ever answered this way, Jakes. If this is because you have, but like phone apps.
Yeah.
I have Windy, Windfinder, Predict Current, and My Radar. Those are all in like my.
Predict current. Note to self.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. But so all those give me different things. So one give me a wind map and show you the wind direction over time.
Yeah.
One's going to give you like my seas and my tides. One's going to give me the where the currents are, like if I'm going offshore specifically, predict currents, seeing where that current lines up, how close it is to land,
Hmm.
where it's cooking the fastest. It'll show me if there's an eddy or a backflow, so the current's going the other way. And then my radar, to basically,
Yep.
I'm addressed
Not gonna get lit
appropriately.
up.
Not going into the
Yeah.
front, you're going to get zapped. But if I can give you a creative one there, I use my phone a lot in that pre-prep because today's Friday. I have a group that's trying to figure out if they want to fish Sunday. They got a big group, so they might split into two boats or go with another captain in a big boat. But right now, I already kind of have a plan for, okay, Sunday's going to play out this way.
Yeah.
Because I have an idea of the tides. I know it's going to be flat calm. It's going to be a low wind. I think it's going to be west for a little bit. So these are all those variables that are laying the groundwork that tell me what my options are going to be. From there, I'll do
Hmm.
my setups. From there, I'll pack the boat accordingly. And then from there, I'll make a plan on where I think I'm going to start bait and then go from there. So just trying to get,
Got it.
okay, what the heck is the whiteboard? What am I working with here? And you can do
Hmm.
a lot of that from your phone on. I have the premium on all those apps, and I bet all of them together add up to like, probably less than $100 for the entire year. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
so for a cup of coffee a month cost at Starbucks, probably less. Because
Yeah.
all of those variables about my fishing days, that's really
As
important.
best you can too. Yeah. I like that. I haven't really thought about the premium version. I'm always such a freebie guy. Um, I guess I'll finish this way. I just would have to say personally, how old are you now? 30.
Just turned 30. The downfall from 29 to 30. Holy crap, man. I'm like almost 100 mentally, and I'm 90. Just turned 30. Yeah.
Um, I admire the choices that you've made, and because you have a couple of different things between some the work with captains and ASGA, the guiding, I imagine some other stuff you do, with your editing and marketing skills. It's not for the faint of heart, but you made choices and you're doing what you love. You're on the water a lot. In a time of your life when I was pulling my rolly bag through an airport at 1 o'clock. So good on you, man. Um, So let's get all morbid then. So you have 1 day left on Earth. Where are you going to fish and what for? Are we going back to Sportsport?
Tough. I might need 15 seconds to think about this. And I know you've asked other people this too, but I didn't
You
even.
should be ready.
I know. I got one place left or 1 day left on Earth, which honestly
Yep.
might be like now that I turned 30, that might be true. Um, but Lake Annabessacook in Winthrop, Maine. That
Ah,
is where my uncle and aunt have a lake house. I've spent many a days. It's where I fell in love with fishing on the Cape, but that's where you know, that was like my second home.
yep.
I lived there for I think for most of the summer in between in between school years 1 year, but that's my home. And it was always it was like a micro environment for understanding how everything works. Like you pick a home water, it's not a massive lake, it's decently big. Um, but I watched it grow. I watched the fishery change. I fell in love with a species, northern pike, that we had some great pike
Mm,
there, and and then got introduced to like the concept of invasive species. So what I loved wasn't supposed to be there, and so then I had to go through like that emotion, my brain figuring out that stuff. I learned and grew on there, and honestly, I just when I go there. I fish on a boat that has $60,000 worth of electronics right now and side scan and Raptors
hmm
wire, a brushless trolling motor, all this incredible stuff. When I go back to Lake Annie, we have a pontoon boat with no troller, nothing, and you go out and you just turn the key off and you just kind of drift down the bank, and then eventually the wind pushes you too close to the bank and you go in
Get
reverse.
it fired up again. Yeah.
It's my simple place, It's like nothing's wrong here. I'm where I should be. My aunt has some like Allison Krauss playing in the living room, and the screen doors open. It's a summer sunny day, and this you'll go catch a 2 pound largemouth, and that just makes me happy. That's
Sure.
we've all got
I,
that
I t
my
Yeah,
place.
well, I do know, share with you that ADHD thing, and it's important to have a place where it all slows down.
Yeah, that would be
You
like
know,
but everyone
yeah, it sure sounds it the way you're describing it.
I can be kind of a little grouchy and morbid sometimes too, and pessimistic, but everyone
No,
gets pissy what I am. But the reality is, like, I would want my ashes. If I get in a car accident tomorrow, at least you have this as evidence. Like, put my ashes there. That's where Cape Cod's where I grew up and where I fell in love, but Lake Annabessacook was like my home. And
yeah, it's awesome.
might have you bleep this out because everyone's gonna go fish there now, and that's cool shit. But
Well, Cody, thanks a bunch. I tell you, I do admire the choices that you've made. I certainly enjoy working with you. And I do think for both organizations, Captains for Clean Water, where you're recognized just recently as Steward of the Year, and all the great work you do with the Guide Association. I think in many ways for that organization, you're our secret sauce. So thank you very much. So glad you could jump on, and I'll get down there and we'll get in the water again soon, unless you're coming my way, in which case give me a heads up, all right?
I am gonna come up to the all species tournament. If anyone hasn't
Yeah,
heard
I'll
of
see you then.
Tim
Yeah,
runs that incredible
go ahead.
tournament in Maine. But also, try to catch as many species on the fly as you can. It's a fundraiser for ASGA. And this year, I love that event so much. I couldn't go last year. This year, I'm driving from Florida, taking the two dogs and the girlfriend. It take me about probably 30 hours, but I'm coming up. So I'll actually see
That's
you.
a full commit.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. If anyone hasn't heard of the all species tournament, you should check it out. But I'll see whoever's listening plus yourself there in
Yep.
a couple months here.
Yep. Sounds good, buddy. You take care.
Cool. Cheers. Thanks,
Talk
James.
to you soon. Bye bye.